Dhritarashtra said, "If there is anything still left unsaid by thee, say it then, as I am ready to listen to thee. The discourse is charming." Vidura said, "That ancient and immortal rish Sanat Sujata, who, leading a life of perpetual celibacy, have said that there is no death, that foremost of all intelligent persons will expound to thee all the doubts in thy mind, both expressed and unexpressed." Dhritarashtra said, "Dost thou not know what that immortal rish will say unto me? Do thou say it, if thou hast that degree of wisdom." Vidura said, "I am born in the Sudra order, and therefore do not venture to say more than what I have already said. The understanding, however, of that rish leading a life of celibacy is regarded by me to be infinite. He that is a Brahmana by birth, by discoursing on even the profoundest mysteries, never incurreth the censure of the gods. It is for this alone that I do not discourse today upon the subject." Dhritarashtra said, "Tell me how with this body of mine I can meet with that ancient and immortal one." Vaisampayana said. Then Vidura began to think of that rish of rigid vows, and knowing that he was talked of, the rish showed himself there. Vidura then received him with the rites prescribed by ordinance, and when, having rested a while, the rish was seated at his ease, Vidura addressed him, saying, "Illustrious one, there is a doubt in the Dhritarashtra mind which is incapable of being explained away by me. It behoveth thee, therefore, to expound it, so that, listening to thy discourse, the chief of men may tide over all his sorrows, and so that gain and loss, what is agreeably and what disagreeably, decrepitude and death, fright and jealousy, hunger and thirst, pride and prosperity, dislike, sleep, lust and wrath, and decrease and increase may all be borne by him." Then the illustrious and wise king Dhritarashtra, having applauded the words spoken by Vidura, questioned Sanat Sujata in secret, desirous of obtaining the heights of our knowledge. And the king questioned the rish, saying, "I hear that thou art of the opinion that there is no death. Again, it is said that the gods and the asuras practice ascetic austerities in order to avoid death. Of these two opinions, then, which is true?" Sanat Sujata said, "Some say death is avertible by particular acts, others opinion there is no death. Thou hast asked me which of these is true. Listen to me as I discourse to thee on this, so that thy doubts may be removed. Know that both of these are true. The learned are of opinion that death results from ignorance. I say that ignorance is death, and so the absence of ignorance is immortality. It is from ignorance that the asuras became subject to defeat and death, and it is from the absence of ignorance that the gods have attained the nature of Brahman. Death doth not devour creatures like a tiger. Its form itself is unascertainable. Besides this, some imagine Yama to be death. This, however, is due to the weakness of the mind. The pursuit of Brahman, or self-knowledge, is immortality. That God holdeth his sway in the region of the Pitris, being the source of bliss to the virtuous and of woe to the sinful. It is at his command that death in the form of wrath, ignorance, and covetousness occurreth among men, swayed by pride, Men always walk in a righteous path. None amongst them succeeds in attaining to his real nature, with their understanding clouded, and themselves swayed by these passions. They cast off their bodies and repeatedly fall into hell. They are always followed by their senses. It is for this that ignorance receives the name of death. Those men that desire the fruits of action, when the time cometh for enjoying those fruits, proceed to heaven, casting off their bodies. Hence they cannot avoid death, embodied creatures, from inability to attain the knowledge of Brahman, and from their connection with earthly enjoyments, are obliged to sojourn in a cycle of rebirth, up and down and around. The natural inclination of men towards pursuits that are unreal is alone the cause of the senses being led to error. The soul that is constantly affected by the pursuit of objects that are unreal, remembering on that with which it is always engaged, adoreth on earthly enjoyments that surround it. The desire of enjoyments first killeth men. Lust and wrath soon follow behind it. These three, the desire of enjoyments, lust and wrath, lead foolish men to death. They, however, that have conquered their souls, succeed by self-restraint to escape death. He that hath conquered his soul without suffering himself to be excited by his ambitious desire, conquereth these, regarding them as of no value, by the aid of self-knowledge. Ignorance, assuming the form of Yama, cannot devour that learned man who controlleth his desires in this manner. That man who followeth his desires is destroyed along with his desires. He, however, that can renounce desire, can certainly drive away all kinds of woe. Desire is ignorance and darkness, and hell in respect of all creatures. For swayed by it, they lose their senses. As intoxicated persons in walking along a street hill towards roots and halls, so men under the influence of desire, misled by deluding joys, run towards destruction. What can death do to a person whose soul hath not been confounded or misled by desire? To him death hath no terrors, like a tiger made of straw. Therefore, if the existence of desire, which is ignorance, is to be destroyed, no wish, not even the slightest one, is either to be talked of or pursued. That soul which is in thy body, associated as it is with wrath and covetousness, and filled with ignorance, that is death. Knowing that death arises in this way, he that relies on knowledge entertaineth no fear of death. As the body is destroyed when brought under the influence of death, so death itself is destroyed when it comes under the influence of knowledge. Dhritarashtra said, the Vedas declare the emancipating capacity of those highly sacred and eternal regions that are said to be obtainable by the regenerate classes by prayers and sacrifices. Knowing this, why should not a learned person have recourse to acts? Sanat Sujata said, he that is without knowledge proceedeth thither by the path indicated by thee, and the Vedas declare that thither are both bliss and emancipation. He that regardeth the material body to be self, if he succeeds in renouncing desire, at once attaineth emancipation. If, however, one seeketh emancipation without renouncing desire, one must have to proceed along the road of action, taking care to destroy the chances of his retracing the roads that he hath once passed over. Dhritarashtra said, who is it that urgeth that unborn and unseen on? If, again, it is he that is out this universe in consequence of his having entered everything. What can be his action or his happiness? Tell me all this truly. Sanat Sujata said, there is a great objection in completely identifying the two that are different. Creatures always spring from the union of conditions. This view doth not detract from the supremacy of the unborn and the ancient on. As for men, they originate in the union of conditions. All this that appears is nothing but that everlasting Supreme Soul. The universe is created by the Supreme Soul itself, undergoing transformations. The Vedas do attribute this power to the Supreme Soul. For the identity, again, of the power and its possessor, both the Vedas and others are the authority. Dhritarashtra said, in this world, some practice virtue and some renounce action or karma. I ask, is virtue competent to destroy vice, or is it itself destroyed by vice? Sanat Sujata said, the fruits of virtue and of inaction are both serviceable in that respect. Both are sure means for the attainment of emancipation. The man, however, that is wise achieveth success by knowledge. On the other hand, the materialist acquireth merit and emancipation. He hath also to incur sin, having obtained again fruits of both virtue and vice, which are transitory. The man of action becometh once more addicted to action as the consequence of his own previous virtues and vices. The man of action, however, who possesseth intelligence, destroyeth his sins by his virtuous acts. Virtue, therefore, is strong, and hence the success of the man of action. Dhritarashtra said, tell me, according to their gradation, of those eternal regions that are said to be attainable as the fruits of their own virtuous acts, by regenerate persons engaged in the practice of virtue. Speak unto me of others regions also of a similar kind. I do not wish to hear of actions. Sanat Sujata said, those regenerate persons that take pride in their yoga practice, like strong men in their own strength, departing hence, shine in the region of Brahman. Those regenerate persons that proudly exert in performing sacrifices and other Vedic rites as the fruit of that knowledge which is theirs, in consequence of those acts, freed from this world, proceed to that region which is the abode of the deities. There are others, again, conversant with the Vedas, who are of opinion that the performance of sacrifices and rites is obligatory, whether to external forms, talk seeking the development of the inner self. These persons should not be regarded very highly. Wherever food and drink worthy of a Brahmana are abundant, like grass and heat in a spot during the rainy season, there should the Yogin seek for his livelihood. By no means should he afflict his own self by hunger and thirst, in a place where there may be both inconvenience and danger to one, for one's aversion to disclose one's superiority. He that doth not proclaim his superiority is better than he that doth. The food offered by that person who is not pained at the sight of another, disclosing his superiority, and who never eateth without offering the prescribed share to Brahmanas and guests, is approved by the righteous. As a dog oftentimes devoureth its own evacuations to its injury, So those Yogins devour their own vomit, who procure their livelihood by disclosing their preeminence. The wise know him for a Brahman who, living in the midst of kindred, wishes his religion's praxis to remain always unknown to them. What other Brahmana deserveth to know the Supreme Soul, that is unconditioned, without attributes, unchangeable, on and alone, and without duality of any kind? In consequence of such practice, a Kshatriya can show the Supreme Soul and behold it in his own soul. He that regardeth the soul to be the acting and feeling self, what things are not committed but that thief who robbeth the soul of its attributes? A Brahmana should be without exertion, should never accept gifts, should win the respect of the righteous, should be quiet, and talk conversant with the Vedas, should seem to be otherwise, for then on may he attain to knowledge and know Brahman. They that are poor in earthly but rich in heavenly, in wealth and sacrifices, become unconquerable and fearless, and they should be regarded as embodiments of Brahman. That person even in this world, who succeedeth in meeting with the gods, that bestow all kinds of desirable objects, is not equal to him that knoweth Brahman, for the performer of sacrifices hath to undergo exertions. He was said to be real honored who, destitute of actions, is honored by the deities. He should never regard himself as honored who is honored by others. One should not, therefore, grieve when one is not honored by others. People act according to their nature, just as they open and shut their eyelids, and it is on the learned that pay respect to others. The man that is respected should think. They again, in this world, that are foolish, apt to sin, and adepts in the faith, never pay respect to those that are worthy of respect. On the other hand, they always show disrespect to such persons. The words esteem and asceticism can never exist together. Know that this word is for those that are candidates for esteem, while the other word is for those that are devoted to asceticism. Here, in this world, happiness resides in worldly prosperity. The latter, however, is an impediment. Heavenly prosperity, on the other hand, is unattainable by one that is without true wisdom. The righteous say that there are various kinds of gates, all difficult of being guarded, for giving access to the last kind of prosperity. These are truth, uprightness, modesty, self-control, purity of mind, and conduct and knowledge. These six are destructive of vanity and ignorance. The Dhritarashtra said, what is the object of asceticism? Of the two kinds of Mauna, which is approved by thee? Tell me the true aspect of Mauna. Can a person of learning attain to a state of quietude and emancipation by that Mauna? How is asceticism to be practiced here? Sanat Sujata said, since the Supreme Soul cannot be penetrated by both the Vedas and the mind, it is for this that soul itself is called Mauna, that from which both the Vedic syllable aurum and this on have arisen, that on is displayed as the word. The Dhritarashtra said, is he that knoweth both the Rig and the Yajus Vedas? Is he that knoweth the Samaveda, sullied by sins or not when he committeth sins? Sanat Sujata said, I tell thee truly that the man that hath not restrained his senses is not rescued from his sinful acts by either the Soma or the Rig or the Yajus Veda. The Vedas never rescue from seeing the deceitful person living by deceit. On the other hand, like new-fledged birds forsaking their nest, the Vedas forsake such a person at the end. The Dhritarashtra said, if the Vedas are not competent to rescue a person without the aid of virtue, whence then is this delusion of the Brahmanas that the Vedas are always destructive of things? Sanat Sujata said, this universe hath sprung from that Supreme Soul by the union of conditions respecting name, form, and other attributes. The Vedas also, pointing it out duly, declare the same, and inculcate that the Supreme Soul and the universe are different and not identical. It is for attaining to that Supreme Soul that ascetics and sacrifices are ordained, and it is by these two that the man of learning earneth virtue. Destroying sin by virtue, his soul is enlightened by knowledge. The man of knowledge, by the aid of knowledge, attaineth to the Supreme Soul. Otherwise, he that converteth the four objects of human pursuit, taking with him all that he doth here, enjoyeth their fruits hereafter, and cometh back to the region of action. The fruits of ascetic austerities performed in this world have to be enjoyed in the other world. As regards those Brahmanas employed in ascetic practice, even these regions are capable of yielding fruits. The Dhritarashtra said, how can ascetic austerities, which are all of the same kind, be sometimes successful and sometimes unsuccessful? Tell us this in order that we may know it. Sanat Sujata said, that asceticism which is not stained by faults is said to be capable of procuring emancipation, and is, therefore, successful, while the asceticism that is stained by vanity and want of true devotion is regarded unsuccessful. All thy inquiries touch the very root of asceticism. It is by asceticism that they that are learned know Brahman and win immortality. The Dhritarashtra said, I have listened to what thou hast said about asceticism, unstained by faults, and by which I have succeeded in knowing an eternal mystery. Tell me now about asceticism that is stained by faults. Sanat Sujata said, the 12, including anger, as also the 13 kinds of wickedness, are the faults of asceticism that is stained: anger, lust, avarice, ignorance of right and wrong, discontent, cruelty, malice, vanity, grief, love of pleasure, envy, and speaking ill of others are general the faults of human beings. These 12 should always be avoided by men. Any one amongst these can singly effect the destruction of men. Every one of these wait for opportunity in respect of men, like a hunter expectant of opportunities in respect of deer. Assertion of one's own superiority, desire of enjoying others' wives, humiliating others from excess of pride, wrathfulness, fickleness, and refusing to maintain those worthy of being maintained. These 6 acts of wickedness are always practiced by sinful men, defying all dangers here and hereafter. He that regards the gratification of lust to be one of life's aims, he that is exceedingly proud, he that grieves having given away, he that never spends money, he that persecutes his subjects by exacting hateful taxes, he that delights in the humiliation of others, and he that hates his own wives. These 7 are others that are also called wicked: righteousness, truth, self-restraint, asceticism, delight in the happiness of others, modesty, forbearance, love of others, sacrifices, gifts, perseverance, knowledge of the scriptures. These 12 constitute the praxis of Brahmanas. He that succeeds in acquiring these 12 becomes competent to sway the entire earth. He that is endowed with 3, 2, or even one of these should be regarded of heavenly prosperity. Self-restraint, renunciation, and knowledge of self, in these are emancipation. Those Brahmanas that are endowed with wisdom say that these are attributes in which truth predominates. Self-restraint is constituted by 18 virtues, breaches, and non-observance of ordained acts and omissions, falsehood, malice, lust, wealth, love of pleasure, anger, grief, thirst, avarice, deceit, joy in the misery of others, envy, injuring others, regret, aversion from pious acts, forgetfulness of duty, calumniating others, and vanity. He that is freed from these vices is said by the righteous to be self-restrained. The 18 faults constitute what is called mada, or pride. Renunciation is of 6 kinds. The reverse of those 6 again are faults called mada. The 6 kinds of renunciation are all commendable. The third only is difficult of practice, but by that all sorrow is overcome. If that kind of renunciation be accomplished in practice, he that accomplishes it overcomes all the pairs of contraries in the world. The 6 kinds of renunciation are all commendable. They are these. The first is never experiencing joy on occasions of prosperity. The second is the abandonment of sacrifices, prayers, and pious acts. That which is called the third is the abandonment of desire, or withdrawing from the world. It is in consequence of this third kind of renunciation of desire, which is evidenced by the abandonment of all objects of enjoyment, and not their abandonment after having enjoyed them to the full, nor by abandonment after acquisition, nor by abandonment on after one has become incompetent to enjoy from loss of appetite. The fourth kind of renunciation consists in this: one should not grieve nor suffer himself to be afflicted by grief when one's actions fail, notwithstanding one's possession of all the virtues and all kinds of wealth, or when anything disagreeably happens, one feeleth no pain. The fifth kind of renunciation consists in not soliciting even one's sons, wives, and others that may all be very dear. The sixth kind consists in giving away to a deserving person who solicits, which act of gifts is always productive of merit, but this again one acquires the knowledge of self. As regards this last attribute, it involves 8 qualities. These are truth, meditation, distinction of subject and object, capacity for drawing inferences, withdrawal from the world, never taking what belongeth to others, the practice of Brahmacharya vows, and non-acceptance. The attribute of Mada have faults which have all been indicated. These faults should be avoided. I have spoken of renunciation and self-knowledge, and as self-knowledge hath 8 virtues, so the want of it hath 8 faults. Those faults should be avoided. He that is liberated from his 5 senses, mind, the past and the future, becomes happy. Let thy soul be devoted to truth. All the laws are established on truth. Self-control, enunciation, and self-knowledge are said to have truth for their foremost attribute. Avoiding faults, one should practice asceticism here. The ordainer have ordained that truth alone should be the vow of the righteous. Asceticism that is dissociated from these faults and endowed with these virtues becomes the source of great prosperity. I have now briefly told thee about that sin-destroying and sacred subject which thou hast asked me, and which is capable of liberating a person from birth, death, and decrepitude. The Dhritarashtra said, which Akihayana, as their fifth, the Vedas declare the Supreme Soul to be this universe, consisting of mobile and immobile things. Others regard 4 Godheads, and others 3. Others again regard 2, and others only 1. And others regard Brahman alone as the sole existent object. Amongst these, we should know to be really possessed of the knowledge of Brahman. Sanat Sujata said, there is one Brahman which is truth self. It is from ignorance of that on, that Godheads have been conceived to be diverse. But who is there that have attained to truth self, or Brahman? Man regardeth himself wise without knowing that own object of knowledge, and from desire of happiness is engaged in stud and the practice of charity and sacrifices. They have deviated from truth and entertain purposes corresponding, and hence, having on the truth of Vedic texts, thereof perform sacrifices. Some perform sacrifices by the mind, some by words, and some by acts. The person, however, who seeketh Brahman through truth obtaineth his desired objects at home. When, however, one's purposes become abortive, one should adopt vows of silence and such like called dikisha. Dikisha cometh from the root dikisha, meaning the observance of vows. As regards those that have knowledge of self, with them truth is the highest object of pursuit. The fruits of knowledge are visible. Asceticism yield their fruits hereafter. A Brahmana who hath only read much should only be known as a greater reader. Therefore, never think that one can be a Brahmana by only reading the scriptures. He, on the other hand, should be nobody to be possessed of the knowledge of Brahman, who doth not deviate from truth. The verses that were recited by Atiharvan to a conclave of great sages in days of old are known by the name of Khandas. They are not to be regarded as acquainted with the Khandas who have only read through the Vedas, without having attained to the knowledge of him who is to be known through the Vedas. The Khandas become the means of obtaining Brahman independently and without the necessity of anything for Yogin. They cannot be regarded as acquainted with the Khandas who are acquainted only with the modes of sacrifice enjoined in the Vedas. On the other hand, having waited upon those that are acquainted with the Vedas, have not the righteous attained to the object that is knowable by the Vedas. There is none who have truly caught the sense of the Vedas, or there may be some who have caught the sense. He that hath only read the Vedas doth not know the object knowable by them. He, however, that is established in truth, knoweth the object knowable by the Vedas. amongst those faculties which lead to perception of the body as the acting agent, there is none by which true knowledge may be acquired. But the mind alone, one cannot acquire the knowledge of self and not self. He that knoweth self also knoweth what is not self. He, on the other hand, that knoweth only what is not self, doth not know truth. He, again, that knoweth the proofs, knoweth also that which is sought to be proved. What that object in its nature is not known to either the Vedas or those that are acquainted with the Vedas. For all that, however, those Brahmanas that are acquainted with the Vedas succeed in obtaining a knowledge of the object not ably through the Vedas, as the branch of a particular tree is sometimes resorted to, for pointing out the lunar digit of the first day of the lighted fortnight. So the Vedas are used for indicating the highest attributes of the Supreme Soul. I know him to be a Brahmana, who expoundeth the doubts of others, having himself mastered all his own doubts, and who is possessed of the knowledge of self. One cannot find what the soul is by seeking in the east, the south, the west, the north, or in the subsidiary directions, or horizontally. Very hardly can it be found in him who regardeth this body to be self. Beyond the conception of even the Vedas, the man of yoga meditation only can behold the Supreme. Completely restraining all thy senses and thy mind also, seek thou that Brahman which is known to reside in thy own soul. He is not a Muni who practiseth only yoga meditation, nor he who liveth only in the woods. He, however, is a Muni, and is superior to all who knoweth his own nature, in consequence of one's being able to expound every object. One is said to be endowed with universal knowledge, and the science itself is called Vyakarana, owing to its being able to expound every object to its very root. The man who beholdeth all the regions as present before his eyes is said to be possessed of universal knowledge. He that stayeth in truth and knoweth Brahman is said to be a Brahmana, and a Brahmana possesseth universal knowledge. A Kshatriya that practices such virtues may behold Brahman. He may attain to that high state by ascending step by step, according to what is indicated in the Vedas. Knowing it for certain, I tell thee this. Dhritarashtra said, excellent as this thy discourse is, treating of the attainment of Brahman and the origin of the universe, I pray thee to go on telling me words such as these, that are unconnected with objects of worldly desire and are therefore hard among men. Sanat Sujata said, that Brahman about which thou askest me with such joy is not to be attained soon, after the will have been merged in the pure intellect, the state that succeeds in on of utter absence of worldly thought. Even that is knowledge. It is attainable only by practicing Brahmacharya. Dhritarashtra said, thou sayest that the knowledge of Brahman dwelleth of itself in the mind, being only discovered by Brahmacharya, that is dwelling in the mind. It requires for its manifestation no efforts, being manifested during the seeking. How, then, is the immortality associated with the attainment of Brahman? Sanat Sujata said, talk residing in and inherent to the mind. The knowledge of Brahman is still unmanifest. It is by the aid of the pure intellect and Brahmacharya that knowledge is made manifest. Having attained to that knowledge, Yogins forsake this world. It is always to be found among eminent preceptors. I shall now discourse to thee on that knowledge. Dhritarashtra said, what should be the nature of that Brahmacharya by which the knowledge of Brahman might be attained without much difficulty? Tell me this. Sanat Sujata said, they who residing in the abodes of their preceptors and winning their good will and friendship practice Brahmacharya austerities, become even in this world the embodiments of Brahman, and casting off their bodies are united with the Supreme Soul. They that in this world desirous of obtaining the state of Brahman subdue all desires, and endowed as they are with righteousness, they succeed in dissociating the soul from the body like a blade projected from a clump of heath. The body is created by these, the father and the mother. The birth, however, that is due to the preceptor instructions is sacred, free from decrepitude and immortal. Discoursing upon Brahman and granting immortality, he who wraps all persons with truth should be regarded as father and mother, and bearing in mind the good he does, one should never do him any injury. A disciple must habitually salute his preceptor with respect and with purity and well-directed attention. He must betake to study. He must not consider any service as mean, and must not harbor anger. Even this is the first step of Brahmacharya, the practice of that disciple who acquires knowledge by observing the duties ordained for one of his class are regarded also as the first step of Brahmacharya. A disciple showed with his very life and all his possessions, in thought, word, and deed, do all that is agreeable to the preceptor. This is regarded as the second step of Brahmacharya. He should behave towards his preceptor's wife and son in the same way as towards his preceptor himself. This also is regarded as the second step of Brahmacharya, bearing well in mind what has been done to him by the preceptor, and understanding also its object. The disciple should, with a delighted heart, think, I have been taught and made great by him. This is the third step of Brahmacharya. Without acquiring the preceptor by payment of the final gift, a wise disciple must not betake to another mode of life, nor should he say or even think of in his mind, and make this gift. This is the fourth step of Brahmacharya. He attaineth the first step of the object of Brahmacharya by the aid of time, the second step through the preceptor's prelections, the third by the power of his own understanding, and finally the fourth by discussion. The learned have said that Brahmacharya is constituted by the 12 virtues. The yoga practices are called its angas, and perseverance in yoga meditation called is its valam, and one is crowned with success in this in consequence of the preceptor's aid and the understanding of the sense of the Vedas. Whatever wealth a disciple thus engaged may earn should all be given to the preceptor. It is thus that the preceptor obtaineth his highly praiseworthy livelihood, and thus should the disciple behave towards the preceptor's son. Thus stationed, The disciple thriveth by all means in this world, and obtaineth numerous progeny and fame. Men from all directions shower wealth upon him, and many people come to his abode for practicing Brahmacharya. It is through Brahmacharya of this kind that the celestials attained to their divinity, and sages, highly blessed and of great wisdom, have obtained the region of Brahman. It is by this that the Gandharvas and the Apsaras acquired such personal beauty, and it is through Brahmacharya that Surya riseth to make the day. As the seekers of the philosopher's stone derive great happiness when they obtain the object of their search, thus mentioned above, on completing their Brahmacharya, derive great happiness in consequence of being able to have whatever they desire. He who, devoted to the practice of ascetic austerities, betaketh himself to Brahmacharya in its entirety, and thereby purifieth his body, is truly wise, for by this he becometh like a child, and triumphs over death at last. Men, by work, however poor, obtain only words that are perishable. He, however, that is blessed with knowledge, attaineth by the aid of that knowledge to Brahman, which is everlasting. There is no other path leading to emancipation. Dhritarashtra said, the existence of Brahman, thou sayest, a wise man perceiveth in his own soul. Now is Brahman white, or red, or black, or blue, or purple? Tell me what is the true form and color of the omnipresent and eternal Brahman. Sanat Sujata said, Brahman may appear as white, red, black, brown, or bright, but neither on the earth, nor in the sky, nor in the waters of the ocean is there anything like it, neither in the stars, nor in lightning, nor in the clouds is its form to be seen, nor is it visible in the atmosphere, nor in the deities, nor in the moon, nor in the sun, neither in the Hik, nor among the Yajus, nor among the Atiharvans, nor in the poor Samans. It is to be found. Verily, it is not to be found in Hatihantara or Varhadratiha, nor in great sacrifices. Incapable of being compassed and lying beyond the reach of the limited intellect, even the universal destroyer, after the dissolution, is himself lost in it. Incapable of being gazed at, it is subtly as the edge of the razor, and grosser than mountains. It is the basis upon which everything is founded. It is unchangeable. It is this visible universe. It is vast. It is delightful. Creatures have all sprung from it, and are to return to it, free from all kinds of duality. It is manifest as the universe and all-pervading. Men of learning say that is without any change, except in the language used to describe it. They are emancipated, that are acquainted with that in which this universe is established. Sorrow, anger, covetousness, lust, ignorance, laziness, malice, self-importance, continuous desire of gain, affection, jealousy, and evil speech. These 12 are grave faults that are destructive of men's lives. Each of these wait for opportunities to seize mankind. Afflicted by them, men lose their senses and commit sinful acts. He that is covetous, he that is fierce, he that is harsh of speech, he that is garrulous, he that is given to nourishing anger, he that is boastful, this seeks of wicked disposition, on obtaining wealth, cannot treat others with courtesy, he that regardeth sensual gratification as the end of life, he that is self-conceited, he that boasteth having made a gift, he that never spendeth, he that is weak in mind, he that is given to self-admiration, and he that hateth his own wife, these seven are counted as wicked men of sinful acts. Righteousness, truth, asceticism, self-restraint, contentment, modesty, renunciation, love of others, gift, acquaintance with the scriptures, patience, and forgiveness. These 12 are the practices of a Brahmana. He that doth not far off from these 12 may sway the entire earth. He that is endowed with 3 or 2 or even one of these doth never regard anything as his own to the exclusion of others. Self-restraint, renunciation, and knowledge, in these reside emancipation. These are the attributes of Brahmanas endowed with wisdom, and regarding Brahman as the highest of all objects of attainment. True or false, it is not laudable for a Brahmana to speak ill of others. They that do this have hell for their abode. Mada have 18 faults which have not yet been enumerated by me. They are ill will towards others, throwing obstacles in the way of virtuous acts, detraction, falsehood in speech, lust, anger, dependence, speak ill of others, finding out the faults of others for report, waste of wealth, quarrel, insolence, cruelty to living creatures, malice, ignorance, disregard of those that are worthy of regard, loss of the senses of right and wrong, and always seeking to injure others. A wise man, therefore, should not give way to mada, for the accompaniments of mada are censurable. Friendship is said to possess 6 indications. Firstly, friends delight in the prosperity of friends, and secondly, are distressed at their adversity. If anyone asketh for anything which is dear to his heart, but which should not be asked for, a true friend surely giveth away even that. Fourthly, a true friend who is of a righteous disposition, when asked, can give away his very prosperity, his beloved sons, and even his own wife. Fifthly, a friend should not dwell in the house of a friend, on whom he may have bestowed everything, but should enjoy what he earneth himself. Sixthly, a friend stoppeth not to sacrifice his own good. The man of wealth who seeketh to acquire those good qualities, and who becometh charitable and righteous, restraineth his 5 senses from their respective objects. Such restraint of the senses is asceticism. When it groweth in degree, it is capable of winning in regions of bliss hereafter. They that have fallen off from patience acquire such asceticism in consequence of the purpose they entertain, the attainment of bliss in the high regions hereafter, in consequence of his ability to grasp that truth from which sacrifices flow. The Yogin is capable of performing sacrifices by the mind, another performeth sacrifices by words, and another by work. Truth resides in him who knoweth Brahman as vested with attributes. It dwelleth more completely in him who knoweth Brahman as divested of attributes. Listen now to something else from me. This high and celebrated philosophy should be taught. Our other systems are on a farrago of words. The whole of this is established in this yoga philosophy. They that are acquainted with it are not subject to death. One cannot, by work, however well accomplished, attain to truth. The man that is destitute of knowledge, even if he poureth holy libations or performeth sacrifices, can never, by work, attain to immortality, nor doth he enjoy great happiness at the end. Straining out the external senses and alone, one should seek Brahman. Giving up work, one should not exert mentally. One should also avoid experiencing joy at praise or anger at blame. By conducting himself in this way, according to the successive steps indicated in the Vedas, one may even here attain to Brahman. This is all that I tell thee. The primary seed, called Mahayasas, is destitute of accidents, is poor knowledge, and blazeth with effulgence. It leadeth the senses, and it is in consequence of that seed that Surya shineth. That eternal, on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. It is in consequence of that seed that Brahman becomes capable of creation, and it is through it that Brahman increaseth in expansion. It is that seed which, entering into luminous bodies, giveth light and heat. Without deriving its light and heat from any other thing, it is self-luminous, and is an object of terror to all luminous bodies. The eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. The body, composed of the five grosser elements, that are themselves sprung from the five subtler ons. The latter, in their turn, originating in an homogeneous substance called Brahman, is upheld in consciousness by both the creature soul, endowed with life, and usado. Brahman, on the other hand, which is never bereft of consciousness, and which is the sun's son, upholdeth both these two, and also the earth and the heaven. The eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. That seed upholdeth the two gods, the earth and the heaven, the directions and the whole universe. It is from that seed that directions and rivers spring, and the vast seas also have derived their origin. The eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. The body is like a car destined to destruction. Its acts, however, are undying, tied to the wheels of that car. The senses that are as steeds lead through the region of consciousness. The man of wisdom towards that increate and unchangeably on. That on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. The form of that on cannot be displayed by any comparison. None ever beholdeth him by the eye. They that know him by the heart faculties, the mind and the heart, become freed from death. The eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. The stream of illusion is terribly guarded by the gods. It hath 12 fruits. Drinking of its waters and beholding many sweet things in its midst, men swing along it to and fro. This stream flows from that seed. That eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. Destined to sojourn to and fro, the creature soul, having reflected, enjoyeth on half of the fruits of his acts. It is that creature soul which is Vara, pervading everything in the universe. It is his vara that hath ordained sacrifices. That eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. Souls divested of accidents, resorting to avidya, which is like unto a tree of golden foliage, assume accidents, and take births in different orders, according to their propensities. That eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. Accidents rise the universe in its fullness from that Brahman which is full. Those accidents also in their fullness arise from Brahman in its fullness. When one succeeds in dispelling all accidents from Brahman which is ever full, that which remains in Brahman in its fullness, that eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. It is from that seed that the five elements have arisen, and it is in it that the power resideth for controlling them. It is from that seed that both the consumer and the consumed have sprung, and it is in it that the living organism with the senses has. Everything should be regarded to have sprung from it. That seed called in the Vedas Tat, we are unable to describe. That eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. The vital air called Apana is swallowed up by the air called Prana. Prana is swallowed up by the will, and the will by the intellect, and the intellect by the Supreme Soul. That eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. The Supreme Soul, endowed with four legs, called respectively walking, dream, profound, sleep, and Surya, like unto a swan, treading above the unfathomable ocean of worldly affairs, doth not put forth one leg that is hid deep. Unto him that beholdeth that leg, as put forth for the purpose of guiding the other three, both death and emancipation are the same. That eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. Of the mastery of the tomb, ever full and different from this eternal organism, coming in contact with the vital airs, the will, the intellect, and the 10 senses, it moveth to and fro. That supreme controller, worthy of reverential hymns, capable of everything when vested with accidents, and the prime cause of everything, is manifest as knowledge in creature souls, whose alone do not behold him. That eternal on, endowed with divinity, is beheld by Yogins. Among individuals there are those that have obtained the mastery of their minds, and those that have not. Yet in all men the Supreme Soul may be seen equally. It resideth equally in him that is emancipate and in him that is not, with only this difference that they are emancipate, obtain honey flowing in a thick jet. When one maketh life's sojourn, having attained to the knowledge of self and not self, then it matters little whether his Agnihotra is performed or not. Let not such words as I am thy servant fall from their lips. The Supreme Soul hath another name, pure knowledge. They only that have restrained their minds obtain him. Even such is he. Illustrious and full, all living creatures are merged into him. He that knoweth that embodiment of fullness attaineth to his object, even here. That which fleeth away, stretching forth thousands of wings, yea, if endowed with the speed of the mind, must yet come back to the central spirit within the living organism. His form cannot be an object of sight. They only that are of poor hearts can behold him. When one seeketh the good of all, succeedeth in controlling his mind, and never suffereth his heart to be affected by grief, then is he said to have purified his heart. Those again that can abandon the world and all its cares become immortal, like serpents concealing themselves in holes. There are persons who, following the dictates of their preceptors, or by their own conduct, conceal their vices from scrutiny gaze. They that are of little sense are deceived by these, in fact, bearing themselves outwardly without an impropriate. These deceive their victims for leading them to hell. He that is emancipate thinks, this transitory organism can never make me liable to enjoy any grief in the other attributes inhering to it, nor can there be, in my case, anything like death and birth. And further, when Brahman, which have no opposing force to contend against, and which is alike in all times and all places, constitutes the resting place of both realities and unrealities, how can emancipation be mine? It is I alone that I am the origin and the end of all causes and effects. The Brahman knowing person, who is equal unto Brahma itself, is neither glorified by good acts nor defiled by bad ones. It is only in ordinary men that acts, good or bad, produce different results. The person that knoweth Brahman should be regarded as identical with Amrita, or the state called Kaivalya, which is incapable of being affected by either virtue or vice. One should, therefore, disposing his mind in the way indicated, attend to that essence of sweetness. Slander grieveth not the heart of the person that knoweth Brahman, nor the thought, I have not studied, or I have not performed my Agnihotra. The knowledge of Brahman soon imparteth to him that wisdom, which they only obtain who have restrained their mind. He, therefore, that beholdeth his own self in everything, hath no longer to grieve, for they only have to grieve who are employed in diverse other occupations of the world. As one's purposes may be served in a well as in a large reservoir of vast expanse, so the various purposes of the Vedas may all be derivable by him that knoweth the soul, dwelling in the heart, and of the mastery of the tomb, that illustrious on, the embodiment of fullness, is not an object of sight. Unborn he moveth, awake day and night. He that knoweth him becometh both learned and full of joy. I am called the mother and father. I am again the son of all that was, and of all that we will be. I am the soul. I am the old grandsire. I am the father. I am the son. Ye are staying in my soul, yet ye are not mine, nor am I yours. The soul is the cause of my birth and procreation. I am the warp and woof of the universe. That upon which I rest is indestructible. Unborn I move, awake day and night. It is I knowing whom one becometh both learned and full of joy, subtler than the subtle, of excellent eyes capable of looking into both the past and the future. Brahman is awake in every creature. They that know him know that universal Father dwelleth in the heart of every created thing.